And we are now live here on special CFL Free Agency coverage on Edmonton Sports Talk, edmontonsportstalk.com, as well as YouTube. Matt Iwanyk back in the EST Hangout studios alongside Dustin Nielson, host of the morning show Lock Shop, Two Guys and a Goalie, sliding in from Two Guys and a Goalie, and Lieutenant Eric from the Nielson Show, as well as the special CFL Hangout edition we had earlier today. Sticking around today to talk a little more CFL Free Agency. It's a little anticlimactic a day like when you have the tampering period. Of course,
we knew it. What was to come, and we did have kind of not a renege, but something happening out of Winnipeg, and what was the name again? I think it was personal reasons.
It was Ricky Walker.
Ricky Walker. I don't think another team was involved or anything like that. I think it was a personal
just
decision.
mulling his future, changing things.
Yeah,
Maybe would have liked to see if anything happened by now with AC Leonard or Tim White or something like that. But Oakman. But it was one where, you had the tampering period. They had their signings, and now those could be official, including the Edmonton Elks officially announcing that Leak will be the kick returner.
It's already got his Abby changed on Twitter. That's nice to see. It's nice
That's
to see.
important. That's
like
when
that,
you know it's official.
A commitment.
That's why I still haven't changed Nielson TSN 1260, because I'm assuming we're going to come back at some time.
You're straddling the divide.
I still don't know what to do there.
It takes so long to change that,
I know.
Some people could do it within minutes, and others it takes months to potentially still do it. 780-218-9999 is the Paris Jewelers inbox, so you can also jump into the nasty chat on YouTube. Ryder's also making it official with AJ Ouellette. I know for sure. I saw that one. I didn't see what else. I think they did one more.
Hardrick said his goodbyes to Winnipeg,
goodbye.
They also confirmed Malik Carty.
Yep. Out of Hamilton.
Which puts Pete Robertson in play.
That's another. And a Shivers connection as well, if he's brought in as well.
He's got to be on a short list for the Elks, I would think. Has to be. They got to have something. No, it's so the CFL is just so fascinating. That's why I love this league. It's so unique in that we're going to sit here, and I know you were talking about Serezna earlier today for the Elks, and for all we know, Chris Jones and G-Roy have already signed the two guys that they think are going to replace Jake Serezna and be the next Jake Serezna. And we just won't know until 4 weeks into the season. We're like, actually, look at this. These guys can play. Like, what league do you actually get that in? I love that element of it. And these aren't like bums. Like, these are guys coming from really good schools down in the United States.
That's why I love bowl season.
Yeah. But it's got CFL future CFL players all over bowl season.
That's kind of what it is, and who's to say they don't have a few aces up their sleeve? But
that's been the argument too, making the neg list fully open. It's so that when bowl season comes, you can follow certain players and be like, oh, this player's an Elk, this player's an Elk, this player's an Elk, this player's an Elk. And it works perfectly because TSN is also the rights holder of all the college bowl games in Canada, that it's a natural pairing, right? We've got the Canadian Football League in the summer here. Here's bowl season right now. Watch bowl season for and like on SportsCenter, you can be like, hey, part of the Elks negotiation list, whatever wide receiver is taking on Al's negotiation list players blank on these teams.
Tomorrow today.
Toledo taking on,
Miami, Ohio.
And these are the neg list players. You could promote it that way. Maybe you get some people watching. I also just want the cap space to know it'd be nice to know what the Elks have. You bring a few up. It'd be nice to know what Chris Jones still has to spend over the course of the next few days to go, okay, can they get in play with some other players, or are they going to tap out and it's going to come down to those press releases that we're going to find between now and the rest of the season? Be like, watch those closely because there might be a name or two we're going to be talking about come July.
From the Caps perspective, it would help the discussion a little bit today. Right, because I know you said you want offense, defense type of thing.
Even if you break down to just the size, I know, but I don't need players.
I do. Yeah. What I would like to see is, and I know everybody's like, well, you don't want to see this guy's only making $90,000. Like, we're all a bunch of millionaires. You know what I mean? Like, these guys are still making more to play football than many of us are doing in our actual
working man's game. It's still close enough that you can kind of
minimum salary is I think like 70-ish.
So
and that's for 6 months of work.
If you don't want to put those numbers out there, just do. If you just put those numbers out there. Don't put the numbers. Put the percentages out.
Sure.
This guy makes 2.4% of the salary cap.
Yeah, but then you could do
this
the
guy
math.
makes.
Yeah, but
whatever. I mean,
so
sure,
you're
we
putting
can
the number
do the math, or you can just look
number
at it and go, oh, he's a 15% guy. You know, I think give us that at least, and that would help the discussion today. So we can sit here and go, you know what, the Elks have 21% of their cap still open right now. Can they spend it on Pete Robertson? Can they spend it on Oakman? You know, can they actually do something else on either on the offensive line?
You could do the rough math.
I think that would add to the conversation a lot, which would be a lot of fun.
Give us 5 players. They'll release 5 players' salaries, and then just tell us the cap.
Kind of like the neg list thing.
No, I want the full thing.
Just a taste.
I understand why the players wouldn't want that, and the players would sit there like, we don't want people knowing this salary and this
buddy,
salary.
everybody
like,
already knows they don't make a lot of money. So what's the difference?
That's a lot of money to me.
It's a lot of money to a lot of people. They shouldn't be ashamed.
You should be comparing it to.
These guys shouldn't be ashamed to play football for half the season and make $120,000 bucks.
No.
Well, but that's 120 for the people that are making 120,000. So maybe it's a number. If you're making over 100, your number's going to come out.
Okay.
If you're under between, you're gonna. Then we just know you're making between 75.
I'll
and
take
100.
anything.
A minimum guy in the National Hockey League, is he ashamed of 700 because a bunch of guys make $7 million?
Nobody talks about.
I mean, I just don't understand. Like, let's stop money shaming CFL players and get the cap up properly so we can see it.
The
And
players
I
don't
love the
want
league.
it.
I think this would be good for the league.
Well, let's do baby steps. Let's
the
just
neg
start with
list.
the cap.
No.
Give us
Let's
one.
just start with.
You can know one player's salary.
The two
then do
things-
the rest. Fill in the blanks yourself.
The 2 things I want is I want cap space. I also want a free agent list well before the end of the season. Like we should know. Like just give me where each player's contract
Terms,
runs till on like a cap friendly, so I could see. Okay, these players are signed for this year. These ones are signed for 2 years, 3 years, and then it just helps a discussion.
Marshall
for the
Ferguson,
rest
if
of the
you're
season.
listening,
We just need somebody to
Marsh
connect
can
with
pull
those
that off,
agents.
man.
We
Of
just
course
need
he
to connect
can.
with the agents. CFLPA,
Well, as
we're
Marsh said
coming
today,
for
there's
you.
like 4 agents.
Yeah.
Like,
So we
you
just
just-
need to find who these 4 agents
Yeah.
are.
Get 'em in a
and
room.
The Edmonton Sports Talk Cap Friendly coming to you.
Naylor, Farhan.
They would
let's
love
go.
that.
Let's go.
No, you want to? They would love what we have. They'd promote the hell out of it.
well, it just increases the talking points by tenfold. If we get
It just really would.
It'd make things a lot easier. The Edmonton Elks, like I said, Javon Leake officially signed. Boris Beatty last week. Overall, special teams has been an issue for the Elks for a number of years. They've taken a major step forward this offseason in fixing that facet of their game.
Beatty and
It's an improvement from Dean Faithful. I love
Absolutely.
Dean Faithful.
it's a global
Great
for an
guy.
American.
A guy that they didn't trust kicking from
I
over
know
40.
you can't do that again. You went with it because you had to. You were put in or you put yourself in a position where you had to do that, and that's
Made
fine.
that great kick Labor Day rematch.
Sure, and we had the wave. We'll always have the wave, but no, this is an upgrade. The return game, as you mentioned too, it's maybe a bit of a how should we say a cursed
Bermuda's Triangle. Como Stadium with the return game.
So he's there, and again
does
can make
both
plays on
jobs.
offense. Yeah, I mean, it's a double deal there.
Punts and
Punts,
field
kicks,
goals.
yeah, first in both.
And I don't care about touchdowns. I just care about gaining that extra 15 yards on a return or
Yeah,
whatever
sure.
to start the offense in a better spot.
Get a good field position
It's
or
that
whatever
field
it is.
game where it's you get if your offense is just going to get 2 first downs, let's say on that next drive. If they're starting with the ball at the 45 as opposed to the 30, it makes a big difference for when the defense comes on the field in the next play. Field position is such a focal part of the game that we don't focus on too much because it's boring to talk about field position and punters and all that. But to have a kick returner that can maybe switch the field a little bit is huge.
Huge. I'm going to go back on the defensive line. Robert Kimdichie, and I know this kind of flew under the radar in terms of prior to
You're
the
big on him.
a stud at Ole Miss. Okay, now he had some issues.
Chris Jones loves this guy.
He's an athlete. Like it checks
An
all the
athlete.
boxes.
Yeah, yeah.
Why wouldn't? And I know you got to go through camp, and you got to, and maybe
There are a
maybe
lot
his
of
mind ain't
guys
right.
like this who come onto the
But
Canadian
this is,
Football
and
League,
this
right?
is,
Like,
he'll know that this is his last chance to do something. Maybe, what if this is that type of guy that comes in and fills the hole, which nobody saw coming? I just think this is it has your classic redemption story written all over it from a guy that had all these 5-star recruit, blah blah blah, SEC college top round pick in the NFL, but then just can't do it. But an athlete can score a touchdown on offense if you need him.
you bring up the special teams, and I think there's been so much talk about, MBT, Gittins trade, offensive line returning, that we are probably overshadowing how significant this is for this football team and special teams. Like Beatty this year was 94.9%.
Was he that high?
He was that high.
Jeez.
He was
That's
37.
gotta be a career high.
It is, by far. He was 37 for 39 this year. for 94.9%. He's a career 82 guy. Like the year before, he was 78.
And those misses, you're getting
This
a
year
rouge.
he was 94.
The power in that leg, that's going straight
and
up there.
his longs every year 53, 53, 52, 52, 54, 56, 53. Like there's no field goal that Chris Jones can't run this guy out there to attempt, which last year, as much as we love Dean Faithful and he was one of our best EST in studio guys, this is a huge upgrade on the position.
And much like Leak flipping the field on
Well,
returns,
Leak on
this
the other
flips
side.
the field too. In a sense, you're getting to be able to do field goals from a different. You're not going to have we got a punt now. We're at midfield or
The offense doesn't have to move the ball as far to
Yep.
get into field goal range because Leak has changed the field position, and you don't have to move that far to get into Boris Beatty field goal territory in itself. That right there could equal 3 points. How many more times
You keep
this
adding that
season
up?
than last year?
Yep.
And even just the missing, it's when Dean Faithful or any kicker, I should say, I don't want to put this on Dean Faithful. When your offense goes out there and marches the ball a little bit and they go for a field goal and you miss, like that's got to be really deflating for a team that you're like, we got our 3 points here. But no, it didn't happen. And now with Beatty going out there, if he can be like, I'm not expecting a 94% from Boris Beatty again. Career high,
but he gives you 88.
If 85 to 90,
Like,
if he's in that range, excellent. Like just getting that extra, what might it be a game? 6 points a game potentially. That's a huge. How many times would have the Elks? Hey, look, that would have won a couple of games against the Riders last season. Would have won a couple of other games for this team if they got those up, couple of extra.
And if you're talking 15 to 20 yards in terms of where you can kick from to get those 3 points,
100%. I think one thing Beatty does struggle a little bit on. This is just based on guessing. I'd have to look at the numbers. I think he misses extra points at a decent rate.
That's his
I looked
kryptonite.
at
Hey?
it this year.
It's too close.
This
I can't
year,
kick from you got to be out.
that 1 yard.
25 or closer, you don't do it. You punt the ball.
I think that might have been a Montreal thing.
Was it a Montreal thing?
But this year, I think I had it, but I've moved on to.
See if
I
I
want
can
to see
find it.
Javon Leak. But well, you know what? If I just click
can
back
pull
here
it up.
4 times, just a sec. Here it is. I got him. This year on extra points, he was 53 of 57.
Okay, not too bad.
I'm trying to look. No, he's actually always been
About that?
212 for 226 in his career, and that's 7 seasons. So he's missing a couple a year.
35 yards out, whatever like that.
Yeah, I mean that's not too bad.
It's the flip. It's the
Yeah,
complete
you'd like
opposite.
him to knock every single one
I
through.
think
but
most would you want that.
They can't
but-
all be Sean White.
Well, that's where I was going to go with
Hey.
that one. Sean White would be the guy. That was right in the sweet spot. Anything inside 40 was Sean White. Just it wasn't a problem. But like for many years, the special teams for the Elks, you go into games feeling like the other teams got the advantage.
They had one return
now-
this year, and I
Last
think
game
I
of the
called
season.
that.
Yes, it was Winnipeg.
And it was like a moment, like people were in tears around there. Like they thought that they returned a kick. Javon Leak, 4 punt return touchdowns last year, averaged 15 yards per return. And when you look at like the other elite returners in the league, Mario Alford, he had 3 touchdowns. I think 2 of them came in one game. 11 yards per return. Terry Williams, 11. Chandler Worthy, 10. McAllister, 10. Janarian Grant, 13, but he missed a bunch of games, so that number might have come down.
And he's
So,
also sitting out there as a free
Yeah.
agent at this moment.
who is?
Janarian Grant.
Well, Bomber's got to bring Janarian Grant.
Somebody's got to sign. I'm
Their
surprised
return
he
game,
hasn't jumped the way
their
somebody else
return
hasn't jumped
game
on that.
suffered when he was not there last year. So yeah, Javon Leak. I mean, he was the elite return man
Well,
in the
most
league. Now,
outstanding special teams player.
different, but that was with the Argos special teams.
Yeah.
Right? This could be different, but how much of a difference can this guy make? And I'd have to think it's significant. So, from a special teams perspective, I mean, they have improved their special teams by twice as much.
15 yards compared to who was it, Kyron Moore, or by committee, whatever was.
Moore was doing it well
He's
until
okay.
he got
He can-
hurt,
he
and then,
can
but
do
then
it.
he also started becoming
You gotta
really
let him
effective
do what
as
he
a
does as a
receiver.
They use him on the
yeah.
offense.
And it was
a
like,
lot,
okay,
too.
well, he's
This
got to
will be
be
a
more of a
specialist bet,
receiver,
mostly.
and this guy could go out there and be the actual kick
VR
returner
Montenegro's
stuff.
in it says, I can't believe I'm pumped for the kicking game. But like when Beatty rolls out there, he's going to get a standing O at Commonwealth.
Well, this is the CFL. The kicking game does matter. There aren't any, hey, let's start a football game, boom, out the end zone. Or whatever the case is, right? Like this is
Okay, I'll go.
strategy-wise, the Canadian game does kind of garner to the kicker
Well, also,
more. And
kicking matters too, and just that if the San Francisco 49ers that extra point doesn't get blocked on Sunday, they might win
win
that
the
football
Super
game.
Bowl,
So,
sure.
like, kicking matters.
Oh, yeah.
It
It's part of
always
the
is
game,
going
yeah.
to matter. So
You still
for the
get
facts,
kicker jerseys.
this team's had some great kickers over its time. In my lifetime, it was Sean Fleming, and then Noel Prefontaine for a little bit. Then you had Sean
The
White.
league as a whole usually had
Right.
steadfast
But
guys for 20 years. that
Now
you
it's like, hey, last year they have. Well, then the Castillo was here, and it's you lose Castillo because you
Don't
don't have
think
the
he's
money.
coming
You
back
got to
either.
do
How's
a
the money thing,
global.
yeah.
You bring in Dean Faithful. He was fine, but he made some key misses or had some key misses,
Which
and
we kinda knew
There was
heading
also
into.
no trust beyond 40, and that really hurt and hampered the team last year. So now you got a kicker, you could do that. They had a good punt game last year, but now you've got the returner. So now can the coverage team do its job? And if so, you might have a top special teams unit in the Canadian Football
Flip the
League, which
game
is
on you.
huge.
Yep.
So now you need to win 2 out of 3 facets. Can you win either offensively or defensively each game? You're not looking at those games going, you need to win both offensively and defensively.
Yeah.
You could maybe afford to have one facet of those two have a falter a little bit.
And I think when a team's competing for at least a crossover league last year, you have to argue too that it's not like it was a full 3-phase shutdown all season long. There are good pieces to this team, and you're right. If special teams can kind of keep you buoyant and you win one offense, defense, away we go. You're wincing. You're hurt.
No, I'm good. Offensively. Okay, actually, overall with this Edmonton Elks team, is this a better football team?
Yes.
You'd have to think so.
I think they've upgraded their special teams so significantly that it probably puts it over the
Because
top.
what else have they lost that would trump that in a sense? Like it's not like it's. I know this Resna thing, and I get all that.
Defensively, to me, they're worse at this moment.
At this moment,
At this moment in time, I would have to say that defensively, they are worse team this year than last year.
If they landed in Oakman today, that would change your.
Well, you've lost 2 defensive linemen
Yep.
in Serezna and AC Leonard.
Yep.
Like losing Konar's not a.
I don't.
That's not. It doesn't hurt.
No,
the
nothing
defense.
against him, but
And
he can be
Gainey,
replaced.
you know, when you're dealing with defensive backs, a little bit slower. So like, and the age, it would mess with things. So that's not going to be there. So I'm not worried about that one. It's the D line. So you lose 2 guys. Yeah, if you bring one though in, that's still
And
not
maybe
an
you get one in
improvement. to
camp,
me.
you'd think,
right?
or-
But for today, I'd say it's not of improvement. Offensively, the O line's the same, so you can't say they're better or worse. They're the same.
Another year.
Receiving core, is it better? I would say it's probably still the same. You know, Gittins Jr., Dunbar, I don't think there's, I would sit there based on the season.
Well-
Based on the season Gittins Jr. had last year.
Last year.
Right.
But
so
the potential that he can have being a fully healthy.
I think I like
There's
it.
an argument
I think
there that
like it
I
maybe
could get on.
as much.
I'll get on
Kevin
board.
Brown's the same. Quarterbacking's better than
Yeah.
what they had last year.
Yeah.
Like straight up,
As a whole.
McLeod
Plus-
Bethel Thompson over Taylor Cornelius. There's an improvement. Trey Ford's still here. So you have the offense that is better. Defense, to me, taking a step back, a little worse.
Jury's out, though.
Special
Still.
teams taking an improvement. So overall, to me, right now, this team is better.
Yeah. Boring talk, but I would agree.
I also agree.
Then it's all settled then, guys.
Like, Trey Ford still exists here, though, right? Like, you can still mix in the athletic ability of Trey
Why
Ford. You
can't
just
you?
happen to have a veteran pocket passing quarterback with a better arm now.
Because where have you seen that Chris Jones would do that? Mixing in Trey
He's thinking
Ford.
receiver. Aren't you?
No, Trey Ford would not do that.
Because
Well, no, I mean, I
Why
would
wouldn't
hope if
he
you have a
done
weapon
that
like
last
that,
year?
why would you not have a package?
Because why didn't he do the last year?
Well, because Cornelius
Everything
is a stud.
switched in the middle of the season.
'Cause,
Maybe
pardon?
a full off season
What's that?
now.
What'd you say?
What'd I say? I said Cornelius is a stud. That's why. I wonder if he's willing to run back the offensive line because they have McLeod Bethel Thompson. And
Yes.
he thinks that he'll be able to, as a veteran,
Yeah.
being able to stay in the pocket a little bit more and move the ball quicker than both Cornelius. Even when Cornelius threw the ball, it still seemed like it took his body longer to release it.
Put a lot into it. Yeah.
Right? So
And I think the
Chris
line,
Jo-
too, will know what MBT is doing.
Like Chris
They
Jones
know,
has to be hoping that the offensive line, which did not grade out well last year at all, he has to be hoping that the offensive line is good enough to give McLeod Bethel Thompson enough time, maybe an extra second here. Ford didn't hang around in the pocket a lot, right? He would at least he wouldn't hang in the pocket as much as I'm assuming MBT will end up hanging in the pocket. So,
Fair.
I mean, that must be the thought process from the Elks offense right now that, yeah, the offensive line might not be able to give you any more time than they gave you last year, but your quarterback, with the receivers that he has, shouldn't need as much time as your two younger quarterbacks did the previous year, which is another element that you could discuss them possibly being better at. So we'll see how that plays out. How about this Cornelius still in the mix, possibly number 2 guy in BC?
Well, they need a number 2.
Yeah.
I know, but I just feel like it doesn't make sense now that Prukop was in there as the number 3. Because
You don't need all.
I think Taylor Cornelius is a decent backup.
Yeah, but I think he could have handled the short yardage stuff. So I don't think you
So
need
why
to pay
Prukop,
Dakota Prukop, who's very good at the job. I mean, as far as guys that you can put in and they work in different packages for him, I get it. I like the Prukop signing. I just
Why would you
what
need
purpose
Cornelius?
is Cornelius serving there now? Where Cornelius could be your backup and your short yardage guy, like he was here. He was great in that role.
What about Hamilton now?
For
Cornelius, perhaps. If Bo goes down, I know Powell's there.
I don't
but
think
then
Taylor Cornelius wants to be a third down short yardage guy. I think he.
Yeah, but he's good at that. He should own that till another opportunity opens up.
See, I
He
think,
may not have the
I think
choice
if I'm
to-
Jake Dolegala or I'm Taylor Cornelius, I'm not signing with anyone this offseason.
You, as we said, play the patient game
I
in the
think you
hangout
wait
there,
till
yeah.
the season plays out and watch that
Somebody's
team
gonna
have
get
an
hurt.
injury.
Yeah.
Do you think both of those guys are good enough that teams would be like, oh man, guys down, I'm going to
No.
get Cornelius to save the season? I'm a pro Cornelius guy, but
To bump up
I don't
their
think
backup.
you want to sit around and do nothing.
But if
and hope
Powell,
you get a
okay,
job.
but-
if Bo
It
gets
depends
hurt
on the
week 1 and
team.
Powell comes in, then you'd want Cornelius to.
Sure. Okay, let's use the Riders for instance. Trevor Harris gets hurt again.
Yes.
What are they doing? You got Mason Fine.
Oh,
Who's
they're
the
still
backup there?
pretty thin, yeah.
But
And
they've
if
chosen
you're-
Mason Fine. He's the guy, right? Like,
but if he goes, like, the Riders need a backup. If I'm Taylor Cornelius or Jake, well, I guess Jake Dolegala was there, but if I'm Taylor Cornelius, maybe I could sign on with the Riders to be the backup there. But also now knowing, because this quarterback is there, he's on a short leash.
Yeah.
If he doesn't perform well, maybe I'll get a shot again. And I get a chance to be a starter once again in the Canadian Football League, and I could show that I should be here. So, like, that's where, if I'm one of those quarterbacks, maybe Hamilton, if Bo goes down again,
Or the
What are
Rough
they gonna
Riders.
do
but you
behind Taylor
wait until
Powell?
then as opposed to trying to get a job somewhere and just be in line. Like the Dolegala thing with the Riders makes sense. Like if Trevor Harris gets hurt and Dolegala's still a free agent, would it not make sense for the Riders to be like, put in the call?
More so
boom,
than Mason
they come in.
Fine playing.
Well,
But I think outside
exactly.
of
I was so
BC,
surprised
I
they made
know.
that decision. but-
BC's the only place that needs a number 2. I think everyone has their number 2 quarterback. So it's unless if you can't get on with BC, why would you sign to be a number 3 anymore?
Yeah, everybody else would
I
have
would
their
rather
number 2.
just sit. Like I will. I'd have to change what I'd say there. If Taylor Cornelius could sign with the BC Lions, I think you do that as the number 2. But if they go with Jake Dolegala, I'm not jumping on with a team for a third stringer. Or as a third stringer, where also it keeps it open that if there's an injury in the UFL, I could jump to the UFL.
Well,
if
that's
I need
another
to.
option too. Yeah.
And I could try to head down there too. So, like, I would keep my options open if I'm Taylor Cornelius. It's weird to say in my mind that I'm defending him, saying he could pick his spot.
Listen what he said.
This guy
Clip
loves
that.
Cornelius.
I would
Pick
keep
his
my options
spots.
open if I was Taylor Cornelius. What a quote
Pick
that is,
his
eh?
spot.
Boy, oh boy.
And
He gets
go
to
where
choose.
he-
Why don't they all go to Ottawa? Join
Hopefully he's
20
not
quarterbacks.
keeping his options open with McAdoo calling the shots.
What's the
That's
chance
not
he's
gonna
still
help.
part of the coaching staff of the Edmonton Elks?
Well, we'll have to see when that. I'm probably pretty good at it.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm probably
I don't
pretty
think OC like
McAdoo?
Yeah, defensive line coach or something like that. I don't know.
Sure, I mean, do whatever you. Yeah,
Where's Dimitri Maxey before he left? I can't remember what position.
Oh, he was a line
coaching
something,
staff.
hey?
Maybe
D-line,
maybe
O-line?
Steve McAdoo takes
But-
over that spot.
yeah, Kemp Con plays.
A text message here from Orca Driver, 780-218-9999. Do you think that guy actually drives orcas around for a living, or do you
I
think he
really
works for a
hope
company
so,
called
yeah.
Orca? Like,
Free
I
Willy.
hope he's the guy who like drives an orca from one place to another and has that spray hose that keeps him wet the whole time. Says if Ford walks next year, is this team better off with the moves that they've made? Matt, what do you think?
Not a chance.
Keep it if. Like, I don't know.
It has been, well, look, in 2025, either Chris Jones is here or Trey Ford will be here.
Didn't see Geno Lewis coming either, right? Like, there's lots of scenarios
I don't
that could
see
play
how
out.
those two could coexist.
And I understand your scenario being one of them. Maybe,
Yeah,
but
at this moment in time, we'll have to see how 2024 plays out.
Yeah.
But I don't see how those two coexist.
I hear you.
I don't see anything Chris Jones has done outside of drafted at Trey Ford and then started him in that early part of the season of
signals
that
are strong.
2023 after he got hurt against Calgary with the broken collarbone. Since then, whatever July 9th of 2023, whatever or 2022, I guess that would have been, whatever date that officially was, I have not seen anything from Chris Jones showing that he has faith in Trey Ford and being a quarterback in this league. including last year where this team went 8 straight losses. It took that many straight losses for him to finally go, we're starting Trey Ford. That this move is not about McLeod Bethel-Thompson coming in to develop Trey Ford to be the starting quarterback in 2025.
Is the end of Trey Ford.
This is, well, I want a quarterback to win this year, Chris Jones, and if he can win next year too, great, I will keep him. But if not, I will go find another quarterback.
Did MBT get a 2-year deal?
It was a 2-year deal.
It was a 2-year deal?
No, it was 1 year. Sorry, it was 1 year deal.
So
that's why it's like there's a potential with all of this that the Elks are sitting here next year. We're sitting here on Feb, what would it be? 11th next year, I think it's a Tuesday.
You already know what day free agency is next year? That's amazing.
Well, it's usually the next day, but it's leap year this year, so it's 2 days.
Yeah, my kids talk about the leap year all the time.
I'm guessing Tuesday is Feb 11, but that we're talking about how the Elks are in the hunt for a quarterback. We're bringing in a brand new quarterback.
Do you still have your whistle?
No, damn. It's over in the...
Courtesy Justin Dunk, Argos signed special teams ace Canadian DB Krafala Exume, which is not
I think I saw that. I think I heard that one a little bit earlier on.
Special teams ad.
Those are the sneaky ones.
Yep. Well,
you know, like, in the end, you're like, man, that guy ended up having
Canadians that win you Grey Cup.
21 special teams.
Bombers getting hit a little bit. It's the beginning of the end.
The crack. Well, and the Argos bringing some. Hey, we were talking about an Argos exodus here.
I want to come back around to this MBT thing. Like, you don't think there could be a Chad Kelly situation here, where it's like Trey Ford,
it could have been,
and MBT work well together, and then
it would have been had I not seen this history of Chris Jones with Trey Ford. If Trey Ford had gotten some starts earlier, or if Chris Jones had created some packages to use Trey Ford with Taylor Cornelius over the course of last season, then yes, I could see how Chris Jones would sit there and go, you want to know something? I still think Trey Ford needs a little more development before he's a starting quarterback, and I'm bringing McLeod Bethel-Thompson to train him.
MBT.
Or MBT. McLeod Bethel-Thompson to train Trey Ford, MBT. But instead, he didn't do any of that. He was forced to play Trey Ford come week 9. Trey Ford saved Chris Jones' job. Trey Ford didn't show anything in that second half of the season that says he couldn't be a starting quarterback in this league, that he couldn't develop into one. Not that he is one right now, but he could, like a full proven starter, but that he couldn't develop into one. And how does Chris Jones handle that? Is he brings in a different guy to take his place.
Do you think Trey Ford saved his job, or the Elks' inability to pay anybody else saved his job?
No, I think if the Edmonton Elks, who won 4 games at that second half of the season, only win 1 or 2 and don't have the excitement,
Still
straight
out
up,
and G-Roy
the excitement of Trey Ford.
Yeah.
If they still had Taylor Cornelius going, he won 4 games. I think it's how the Elks won those games with the excitement around it and brought a buzz around this city that people weren't calling for Chris Jones' head by the end of the season. So Trey Ford, it's a combination. Trey Ford and Jarius Jackson saved Chris Jones' job, and yeah, no, if Trey Ford had some sort of packages through those first 8 weeks of the season, or if they went to Trey Ford before Jared Daggy even, then I could
forgotten man.
I could sit here and say that there is a chance that Chris Jones does have a plan. I think right now Chris Jones is just trying to find a new starting quarterback for this team and doesn't want to give it to Trey Ford because he wants Trey Ford to be a wide receiver. And Trey Ford doesn't want to be a wide receiver, and there's a fracture in the relationship.
Man, I got Trey Ford's back on not wanting to play another position.
No, that's
but
fair.
my God, I mean,
you're reading the signs.
He would throw Trey Ford in the slot, man, and move him around that. He would be a phenomenal weapon.
It's the CFL. It's
phenomenal
like
weapon. Like,
well, but here's the thing. Like, why couldn't you? Maybe there was a play here for Chris Jones last year. Going, we'll create some packages for you, Trey, as a quarterback, but we also want to mix you in with a couple packages as a wide receiver because you could have 2 quarterbaks on the field at the exact same time as of the new rules 2 seasons ago.
You could still play quarterback.
Why not send that olive branch to Trey Ford to see, like, hey, we'll use you as quarterback for a little bit too, but let's try you at wide receiver as well. Maybe send that olive branch. But no, Chris Jones is stuck in potentially wanting Trey Ford to be a wide receiver.
Maybe there's a silent understanding, though, that we do not know. You never know with Chris Jones.
With Chris Jones, also, he has never developed a starting quarterback.
Nope.
He's never gotten it right with a quarterback, I should say, as a GM.
Inheriting Mike Riley.
Ed Hervey brought in Mike Riley.
Yeah.
Ed Hervey was the GM of the Edmonton Eskimos at that time. In Saskatchewan, there's reasons that things played out the way
Air
they
Canada,
did.
Brandon Bridge.
Tony Lawrence hurt Zach Lars, but he brings in Zach Lars. Didn't play off there. Didn't start Cody Fajardo or anything. Like, never got it right.
Yeah.
Craig Dickinson had Cody Fajardo playing and winning. It wasn't Chris Jones.
8 turnovers by the Bombers in that one West final. Jeez, you know. Here's a chance to go to the Grey Cup. No, we don't want it. Sorry. I'm gonna swear here.
There was, I think
you just did.
This is special. Hey, more Elks CFL Free Agent special right here in Edmonton Sports Talk. Matt Iwanyk, Dustin Nielson, Lieutenant Eric there. Do you actually think that Chris Jones believes in Trey Ford? With what you've seen, do you believe? Because throw it the other way. I say he doesn't. Do you believe he? Can you make the case that he does believe in Trey Ford? And this is the real plan, and I am overreacting.
That's a good question.
The case would be, again, he drafted him. And again, with the hopes or the communication with, hey, you want to play something else. But again, he did look at him in draft. Maybe that was by committee. Maybe that was just Chris Jones. I understand the points you're saying. We're only reading the signals. And those are strong signals that are being sent publicly. I mean, over the years. So full play there. But he's still here. Every time the question is posed, it's, oh yeah, we still, we highly regard him. Jones says that he's not going to... I don't know. Again, the signals...
I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to this.
One reason he'd still be here too if I'm Chris Jones. I keep him here because if he's my
bad
backup...
PR if you get rid of him?
He's cheap.
Oh yeah, that's another
If
thing.
I get rid of Trey Ford, I got to bring in another backup quarterback and I got to spend a little bit of cash.
I'm with you. I don't really know. And it's one thing to read those signals, which again, I understand where you're coming from completely when you add all that up and say, oh, this is...
Isn't that damning that you can't sit there and say these are the reasons outside of the very first thing he did?
A case against
to say
it?
He believes in Trey Ford being the starting quarterback of this team in the future.
There's a few things that come into the conversation, I think. One, we know Chris Jones would love to have like a big school American quarterback. That's why Cornelius kept getting cracked, right?
Any American coach generally wants that.
Yeah, I understand that. So, but then why the heck did you use a first round pick on a Canadian quarterback if you're always just going to want to run in these American quarterbacks? So like that part doesn't happen to me. But then at the same time, he actually created some buzz for your team and helped you win games last year. So that you should have had support in him there. So I'm very confused by the entire quarterback situation. Now that being said, Trey Ford's your short yardage guy.
Pardon?
Trey Ford's your short yardage guy. And you actually really mix things up with him? Because what he's supposed to do, because last year when Trey Ford was starting, Cornelius was the short yardage guy. At the beginning of the year, Kyle Loxley was the short yardage guy. Trey Ford doesn't have your prototypical body of a short yardage guy.
But he's athletic.
But every single time you put him in there, it's a major threat to just take off and outrun everybody to the side of the field and score a bloody touchdown, Tommy Stevens style, if I do say.
But
remember Tommy Stevens had that 85-yard touchdown?
He's built like a...
Stevens is a tank, but I'm just saying the threat
He could run left or right and be gone.
But who?
Right?
Trey Ford.
But that's all he's doing. He's not going up the middle. Like you'd be like, okay, he's probably going to spell off a tackle.
The fact that if he goes left or right every so often or does it, then he could start going up middle a little bit because you have to now protect all of that when Trey Ford is there.
Stevens, you'd expect him to go up the middle, but he also has that option, whereas I think Ford, you'd expect him to go outside, and he's really never going up the middle. Might be a little easier, but no, he's not your prototypical short yardage guy, size-wise.
I don't know. You're just going to make Daggy a short yardage guy? He hasn't done it. He never was. It was Loxley, then it was
Cornelius. Maybe it's one of the other quarterbacks they brought in.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe Daggy's no longer here eventually.
I have their roster up.
Lots of stuff.
They're bringing in some quarterbacks. And you always bring in quarterbacks. One of the reasons you do that too is, it's also training camp. You need just some other arms.
Bodies in there.
Guys to throw the balls. Yeah. That's not just your guys. You want to use some others, and then cuts happen.
Here are the quarterbacks they currently have on the roster. McLeod Bethel Thompson, the law firm, Sac State. 35 years old. Todd Centio.
Now, height and weight on this one, please.
James Madison.
What did we look
6 feet, 220. He's thick.
Okay.
25 years old. Jared Daggy, 6'2", 208, 26-year-old out of Troy. Caleb Ellaby, 23 years old, Western Michigan, 6'1", 210. Trey Ford, Waterloo, 25 years old, 6'1", $185. And then Malik Henry out of Nevada.
Not the wide receiver from California.
No, 6'2", 200, 25 years old. And Steven Montez, 6'5", 230, 27 years old.
We found it.
Out of Colorado. This is the guy.
Circle it.
This is the guy.
Shut her down.
6'5", 230. There's your Tommy Stevens.
Redwood.
Who is Steven
The Malik
Montez?
Henry have a bit. Was he a last chance you guy or something like that?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, Henry.
Yeah, and that's how they when
I'd
they did the
perk up
press
a
release,
bit,
they
maybe, I
talked
don't
about that. Wow, maybe, but that's
Who knows?
how you also grow this game a little bit. The Canadian Football League is you go down south to those schools and be like, hey, we've got your favorite player playing up here.
There's a chance.
and you watch
Yep.
them still, or you hope that they follow a little bit. It's not like it's going to be a massive influx of new fans, but there's a potential for some fans that people just love their college or high school ball,
Yeah.
and they want to follow those players and see what happens.
Could
to
be a
their
hell of a
careers,
storyline
right?
if it- yeah.
Absolutely, but
Steven Montez was allocated to the Seattle Dragons in the XFL on November 15, 2022, then re-signed to the Detroit Lions practice squad on December 22nd. He rejoined the Sea Dragons after his practice squad contract expired with the Lions. The Sea Dragons folded when the XFL and USFL
I say
merged
one line of
to
pro
create
time
the
there,
UFL
hey?
League. And now he is with the Edmonton Elks. So we'll see what happens. He completed one of two passes in the XFL. But he's a big boy. 6'5", 235.
There, big
training
hoss,
camp's
eh?
going to be interesting. I'll say that because I'll be intrigued to see the reports come out and which quarterback outplays which quarterback and all of that, and where this all proceeds. And those first, to me, I think when I said bye week 5, it is.
Yep,
I think for
that's
the
right.
Elks is week 6.
I think you said 5.
Yeah,
You
I
said
think
5
so.
earlier.
Those first
There's
4
only
games
one
are so
job
important.
open, though. And that you'd have to unseat Daggy to get it.
No, what if
I
I'm
said,
not
pardon?
saying there's one job open.
forgotten man.
It's one of those things where what if Trey Ford does completely outplay McLeod Bethel Thompson?
Doesn't matter.
I know
That'd be
it,
a
but
pain
like
in the
that's
ass,
a moot
eh?
point. That's the problem with all this is that becomes it's not a competition where if Trey Ford outplays MBT through training camp, well, the reason Trey Ford was the 4th quarterback last year in camp is because he didn't play well in camp.
Damn a good camp.
So now if he plays well in camp and plays better than McLeod Bethel Thompson,
Money aside.
this just goes to the back where it's like this is just signaling to me that Chris Jones doesn't trust Trey Ford, is signaling that these two won't be able to work together.
Doesn't trust him enough yet.
And look,
You
I
can't pay MBT what you're paying him.
This is the
And
problem with
I
all
don't
that.
care how good Trey Ford plays.
But if this
MBT
is okay,
starts week 1.
But if
Done.
everything about Chris Jones is this season is about winning, like all that matters is winning this season. You got to go with the best quarterback. I don't care what they're being paid. And in training camp, if Trey Ford is the better quarterback than McLeod Bethel Thompson, you've lied with everything you've said this entire offseason for Chris Jones, saying winning this season matters because you're not then putting your best player forward.
Yeah, but
or
but
you're going
like-
back on what happened last year where you didn't play Trey Ford for 8 weeks because you had a bad camp.
Can we not spring up?
Montez?
No. Was last year in camp, was Daggy not the best quarterback?
Well, that's
And Cornelius still started.
Yeah.
Because that was the plan.
I don't know if he's best quarterback. I know
I
he was
thought people were saying
better.
best
I know he
camp.
was better than Trey Ford. I don't know if he
Yeah.
was better than Cornelius.
I always like they say when they're spinning it. He's really spinning it in camp
Spinning
this
it.
year. By the way, CFL Super Elite News just tweeted out.
Oh, boy.
Matt Dunnigan has agreed to terms with the Barracudas of Birmingham. Hashtag CFLFA.
there is that website where you can get all those jerseys. Hey, Barracudas, Mad Dogs, the whole bit.
Which one of us wants to give a prize?
You want to go grab that gift card?
PFT Mark said, driving with the sunroofs open, hearing CFL talk, I'm going to pick up Mr. Mike's winning
He's
from you guys.
outside the door.
Shutters shining. What a time to be alive. Trainer Mark. I don't want to walk in and interrupt the show. I'm outside the door if anyone could bring the
is.
gift card.
He's grabbing it for you right
so
now.
Curious.
There
Thank
we
you
go.
for listening. Thanks
we
for
go.
coming. That's great.
Anyway, there's no chance Trey Ford's
I know,
starting
but
week
then
1. Done.
Then it's not about winning this year, potentially. You're not putting your best foot forward if you say Trey Ford was better than McLeod Bethel Thompson this
But
year.
they're not bringing.
So-
I think Chris Jones isn't bringing in MBT to training camp to get a look.
No,
He's
but
bringing him into training camp,
be
paying him
the
that much
starter,
money
but-
to be the starter.
if he's not winning.
There's no way an organization can do this, Matty. Like, you're going to sit here and
This is the problem with all this.
instantly you're
This
going to
is the
prove you
problem
were
with all
wrong.
this.
Instantly you're going to admit you were wrong. I wouldn't want the organization to do that either.
I'll say this. Sometimes you get if it's about this season, it's only about winning. If it's only about winning, you got to put your best team forward. So we'll see. Or then, like, how quickly? What's the lease for McLeod Bethel Thompson then?
Well,
If things don't go look, things could go really
If it
well,
was
and I really hope
Cornelius's
they
leash.
do go well. I want Elks fans to see.
Cornelius
watch a
got
winner.
half a season.
but
MBT's getting 3/4 of the year.
and then that's like the worst thing.
well,
I'll,
You're getting angry right now.
yeah,
Well,
we
no,
don't know.
'cause- those first 4 games, I've said it earlier. Depending on how it goes, I could see Chris Jones being let go.
if it's a total tire fire, though, hey, like.
I think
Not if
Or you're
Javon
just
Leake
taking losses
and Boris
by-
Beatty are just lighting up special teams.
Yeah. If
No,
Trey Ford
absolutely.
can't squeeze it in from the 1 yard line and they lose by a point or whatever it is.
how that whole season would have been different. last year. How that whole
And I
season
was
could have been different.
Kai Loxley.
Loxley, but again,
Unbelievable.
say it's Ford doing that
Yeah,
this
yeah.
year and they lose by a point or 3 points here or there, right? They're in games that goes down to the
Okay.
wire.
Yeah, so the first 4 games for the Elks this season: at home to Saskatchewan, at home to Montreal, in Toronto, in BC. 2-2 minimum.
Oh, boy. So say that again.
Home to Sask, home to Montreal, in Toronto, in BC. If you
I mean,
start
arguably,
off
if you're
1
going to
and
respect
3,
like the Grey Cup champs here, and if you get 1 win there, that's not a bad start to the year. That's a
course
pretty
it
tough.
is.
That's a pretty tough schedule to start the year.
But I think, yeah.
and the Riders,
So this
by
is
all
supposed-
the
so then
buzz
what
is
is
around
the-
the Riders.
so
right now.
what
free
is-
agent buzz doesn't
what-
mean they're going to be.
Yeah.
then what is win now this season?
I mean, you'd like to win those games, but are you picking the Elks to win?
No,
Two
that's
of
the
those-
problem. That's why I say develop Trey Ford. That's why I say go with the other quarterback and don't spend $500,000 on McLeod Bethel Thompson. Instead, take that $400,000 because there was performance.
I'm not
bonus in there,
gonna disagree
and go
with your
put
dis-
it in different other spots. That's where this whole process is. Is that you could have built this team differently
Okay, I
this
agree with that.
offseason and gone with Trey Ford. Where if you go 8 wins this year with Trey Ford, I might even go as low as like 7 wins. The fan base would be okay with that if they're seeing the progress from the quarterback in Trey Ford. There wouldn't be people calling for Chris Jones' head. They'd be like, there's improvement, and the future quarterback is here. 2025, that's our season.
We've been
You-
saying that with Cornelius, though, and that's why it's so. We've been doing this for a long time, and I think that's why the win now.
For Chris
Is this
Jones.
whole thing. Yeah, exactly.
But look, Chris Jones might just lose his job anyways with an ownership change.
Yeah.
And that's not something to knock on Chris Jones. New ownership might come in and go, we want a fresh start with our own people. We're going to put our people in place, and he might be gone. But when now, like McLeod Bethel Thompson, you go win 10 games with him this year then? Like, what's the number we're looking at the Elks with this team? If we're saying this is such a tough stretch to start, well, like, what teams then can we say the Elks
Well, I
are
think-
favorite in going into this season right now?
I think in the CFL till level
Calgary.
plays out.
Okay? So that's 3 games?
Riders would be close.
Early on in the season, though, who's to
Ottawa.
say in the summer?
Hamilton.
Okay, so
I think the Elks are a middle of the
Sure.
pack team.
So
Sometimes
now-
that'll get you in the playoffs.
Flip
Well, I think in
side-
the West.
Flip side to that, would have that been different if Trey Ford was the starting quarterback versus McLeod Bethel Thompson?
We'll
Everything
never
you're
know.
saying. Well, but like I would have still had them the exact same favorited. I would still have them. It'd be close against Saskatchewan. It'd be with the Stamps, with the Ticats, with the Rebel. This hasn't changed that much to me in how much better this team
But
is.
if you can be the best of those teams as opposed to being just in the middle of the pack of those teams.
Great. So winning this battle here, when I would rather win the full war of seeing what Trey Ford could be. And if this season, if we can't sit here and look at this team and say they're going to take these steps where, yeah, this first 4 games, Saskatchewan, Montreal,
So
Toronto,
what's after that?
BC,
Take me through the next 6.
back-to-back Ottawa, Hamilton, Saskatchewan.
Okay. You got to survive to that bye.
Okay, so then with that, what's then a record after week 9 that you're comfortable
So
with?
those are the games?
So, okay, let's go through the first
4 and
8
4.
games of the season.
4 and 4.
Saskatchewan, Montreal, Toronto, BC, Ottawa, Hamilton, Saskatchewan.
4 and 4. That's already as many wins as you had the last 2 years, and you're starting to build something. 4 and 4, I think, would be fine. You don't like that 4 and 4, eh? You know what you're going to say? You're going to say 5 and 3, which is only one difference.
Like bare minimum 4 and 5. It's
4
got
and
to be
4.
better than that.
It doesn't have to be better than 4 and 4. 4 and 4 will get you on pace to play. So let's say they're 4 and 4 through there. Give us the rest.
BC,
Okay.
Hamilton,
Okay.
Montreal.
5 and 5. I'm gonna say they win that. Where is that? Home?
that's in Montreal. They're already home to Montreal.
5 and 6.
Labor Day set.
7 and 6.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
You've got a
I like
split.
that.
No, you got 2 wins.
Yeah.
Taking them both.
Oh, yeah.
Double Winnipeg.
Probably 7 and 8.
They're not winning against Winnipeg.
They could beat Winnipeg. Winnipeg's different this year. There's no more Jamarcus Hardrick. There's no more, they've lost some pieces.
Saskatchewan.
Maybe if Trey Ford was
8 and
quarterbacking.
8.
So basically, like always beating Saskatchewan this year.
Maybe.
Almost.
I don't know.
Calgary.
9 and 8.
So they're going to sweep Calgary this year.
They'll
No,
be the-
but
they'll be the-
we're going to say they're going to get swept by
Okay,
Winnipeg.
and
You
then
never know.
Toronto at home to Toronto.
9 and 9.
Yeah, but guys,
So
the Riders were what, 3-1, 4-1?
Yeah,
I mean, most of those wins
but-
were fraudulent.
Yeah.
In the end, like it's I don't know. There's lots of
great.
like,
Win now this year. They go 9-9. Awesome. They could have done that with Trey Ford potentially here. And spend money
Potentially.
to
It's not our
load
decision.
up their
It's not like we
O-line.
decided to-
Well, but that's my problem with this is that it's this win now mode, but we're not looking at a team out here that we're saying is going to make these massive improvements to be a 12, 13, 14
they
win
could
club.
be. And all
of
you need
course
to do,
They're not
all
going
you-
to win 14
all
games.
you need to do is get in the dance. You get in the playoffs, much like Montreal showed us. The
Look
start
at
of that
Montreal.
season, the start to the season
And
last year
that's
was
just, that's where
brutal.
it's disappointing me is that we
Man, Montreal didn't beat any good teams
Until
it was.
the
It was
playoffs.
like a thing where they like lost to the best teams and only beat the bad
If you
teams.
get hot
beat every
late,
single
anything
team
can happen.
that was
It's the beauty of the
outside
league.
of the top
Beauty
three,
of the league.
Toronto, BC, and Winnipeg. And it's just I don't know. Like
And again, I'll say it in the West. It's BC, Winnipeg, however you want to slot those. I could say today that Edmonton, why not? With continuity and a few additions and not too many subtractions in a bad way. I mean, Saskatchewan's all new. You win free agency, that's great. New coach, new era, new everything. Calgary, I don't know what to make of them. Trending a little.
Yeah, I don't know why. I
flat.
mean, maybe
Like
I don't know what's happening in Calgary. They got. Some
I'm worried
pieces,
about
but-
Huff gone there.
Well, yeah.
That now you don't have Huff around anymore. Like it's now
You talk about
done,
cracks in the
basically.
foundation,
He's an
that's-
advisor,
yeah.
quote unquote, but he was their head coach for so long and GM, and then just GM. But now that's
It's all Dickies now.
and then he was even president of football ops still, and now it's all Dave Dickinson.
It's different
He's
days.
not John Huffnagel.
It's different days.
Who was
Well, maybe
just,
it's time to move on there a little bit, though.
But he builds a culture, and there was always a thing of
Yeah.
every time you thought Calgary's taking the step back this year, they didn't because John Huffnagel was there and he found the players.
Except that Matt Dunnigan year. And I think that was
pre-John
That was
Huffnagel.
pre. That was
That was before
hilarious.
Huff.
That was a
Dunnigan talks
hilarious
about that
season.
all the time.
Oh my
And
god.
John Huffnagel came back, and John
Dunnigan's got some
Huffnagel took
stories
over,
about that
and that's-
season.
and that started the stamps on this
No, you're right. Yeah.
trajectory of this dominance for so long. So now he's gone. So I don't know what to fully make of them.
Pre Dunnigan, post Dunnigan, kind of the
I
Stampeders
also think the
timeline.
Saskatchewan Roughriders are a good football team. Now.
Well, they're not-
We'll
they're
see what
bad.
Corey
I
Mace
just-
is
yeah.
because we haven't seen him as a head coach.
That's what I'm saying. They have to
That's
figure
a
that out.
question.
Getting
But
Jamarcus
I
Hardrick was
really
big,
like
if he
their
can do what he
moves.
did before.
I like the
I
moves,
really like
but it's all
AJ
new.
Ouellette.
It's dawning of a new day, and you can. But the beauty of this league is you can do that. You can retool and refocus, and you put yourself in position. Win a couple games, you're a champion.
Is Roland Milligan still there?
Yeah,
He
they
was
run him
hurt
back.
last
They
year.
run him
Okay,
back, yeah.
because
He's
they
good,
missed
yeah.
him last
Yeah,
year
yeah,
big time. Maddie, if McLeod Bethel Thompson was to say 4,700 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, 12 picks, is that good enough for you?
Well, but here's the problem. I get it for this season,
Yeah.
but is McLeod Bethel Thompson the quarterback of the Edmonton Elks 4 years from now?
Well, no, but you want your team to try to win now.
You're viewing him as
by
a
bringing
bridge.
in a veteran
That's
guy.
Right, but I also want the Elks to build a winner that's successful for a long time. And now I see.
But what if that starts
This
here
might
and
be the
carries over
start,
to
but
Trey Ford?
much like the Toronto
But
model.
the problem again is the history is not there of Chris Jones with believing in Trey Ford.
But that's
that
not in
I would
stone.
if that
That's
history
just-
wasn't
Maybe
there.
it's just not there yet.
Yes.
Okay, but I don't think Trey Ford feels that. And if he doesn't feel that, then what happens is next offseason he walks. This could all change for me. Everything could change for my belief of this if all of a sudden I see the press release from the Edmonton Elks says that Trey Ford has signed an extension for 2 years with the Edmonton Elks.
Oh boy.
I would be like, okay, the plan is in place here. They are going with MBT, even if it's MBT next year with him still.
Yeah.
They have this plan in place to go with McLeod Bethel Thompson and eventually, hopefully, have Trey Ford ready to go to be the starting quarterback of this team of the future. But he's a free agent next year. And I look at Ottawa, and they're doing what they're doing. And I knew that they brought in Drew Brown, but maybe things don't work this year, and he could head back on Hamilton with Bo Levi Mitchell potentially being close to he's
Yeah,
at
I
the
mean,
end.
that's a big one.
And then is Taylor Powell the guy? Or could Trey Ford head to Hamilton? And it's
Imagine
that-
if Cornelius is there waiting for him. Well, that'd be quite
And
the
then Taylor
twist.
Powell comes over
That's
here.
quite the twist.
And that's where I just go. It's set up where Trey Ford will walk from this team in this upcoming offseason.
I just
And
don't think Chris
could
Jones
see
cares
him-
about that.
But the franchise should.
Well,
And
that's-
somebody in
that's
the
the divide
franchise
here.
should. Rick
Yeah.
Lawlisher should. And go, this is you can't have a situation where this franchise, with what they've gone through for the last 18 years or so, with 2 good seasons, really, have this franchise who love their quarterback. Like, they want this quarterback.
Yeah, I know they
There
do.
are some casual sports fans in this town that were excited again about Trey Ford and were willing to come back.
100. That was the plan. Like, that's what the
And-
Elks were going to build around, right? Like,
You can't have him playing for the Hamilton Tiger Cats and potentially being a top quarterback in this league
Potentially.
because
This is all-
you allowed Chris Jones to have this season. To go with McLeod Bethel Thompson to try to save his season, where even in the end, he still might lose his job. They might do a good season this year. They might get to a West final. And Chris Jones still might lose his job because a new ownership might come in and go, we're changing the guard here.
Maybe the new ownership comes in and doesn't like Trey
So,
Ford.
again, to all this, Chris Jones just signed Trey Ford to a contract extension. And then, to me, it shows Chris Jones believes in Trey Ford, and it believes Trey Ford believes in Chris Jones. And until that happens, it just looks like we are seeing a divorce coming between Chris Jones and Trey Ford.
this text is in and says, you honestly think the Elks are going to beat the Ticats, Dusty? Listen, I'm just saying, what, we're just going to go through here and say they're only going to win 4 games again? Teams beat
No.
teams that you're not expecting them to beat. It's how it
It's
always
a
works.
long season. The summer CFL is different than the fall
But then that means
CFL.
also there's some losses there that we
Pre-post Labor
weren't
Day.
figuring out either.
Yeah.
Like I could see a loss to Ottawa in back-to-back games. I could see Ottawa.
I could also see them beat the BC Lions, though.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That's why CFL is so freaking awesome. Different things every single week. This text from Chris, 780-218-9999. Any insight on how the kicking duties are going to shake out with Faithful and the Elks bringing in Beatty? Faithful is still on the roster.
He was working out. He posted a workout video yesterday. He's hitting the gym, getting swole.
There's no chance Beatty punts and Faithful kicks, right?
Well, they have a punter, don't they? Or is he?
was
on
a-
the
He's
roster?
not. I don't think he's on
He
the
was
roster
at Global
anymore.
as well, was he not? Global or American?
I
think he was
what was his
global.
name?
Well,
You know what? Yeah,
I know who you're talking about.
I think he was global.
you
I
don't
think
bring
they-
Beatty in to not field goal kick.
No, no.
Julian? Jake Julian? Was that?
I think that's what it
Something
was.
like
his
that.
name?
Yeah.
I don't think he's on the roster anymore.
No,
I've got
no,
it
I mean,
sorted
this
out.
is-
I've got it sorted out by positions.
There's
but
no
I'm
way.
just, I'm like, but they haven't released Dean Faithful yet.
No, but maybe there's a plan there to try to get him to punt then, or maybe it's a full competition
no.
between those two.
Jake Julian, yeah, he's still on the list too.
Okay,
Global or
no,
no,
he
he's
won't
a-
be a global.
American?
The Dean Faithful is a global.
right? I
So
thought,
they
I thought
need
Julian was
to if they make a move with Dean Faithful, they would have to then bring in a global.
Jake
So
Julian was born in Barrie.
maybe it's a competition in camp, but
I hope not.
I mean, yeah, I guess you
No
could do
offense
that,
to
but
Dean.
it's not going to be one. I mean,
Shouldn't be one.
unless Dean Faithful has an amazing offseason and comes in just rocking the
That's what I'm saying,
ball.
he's swole.
You're not going to replace a guy who had 94% last year and can kick the ball from 100 yards.
That you ripped in for free agency.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it. I think I'll have to see some roster adjustments.
He's buying into it.
no, I don't see it. I don't see it.
No,
like
I know.
it's just one. When I see the signing of Boris Beatty, I think that just means Dean Faithful will get released at some point. You would,
Dang.
based on history of sports.
Yes.
That's when there's only one position of that.
Sure.
Right? It's not like teams generally hold 2 kickers, field goal kickers on their roster.
3 goaltenders on your
Right? Like that.
bench.
That's where it is. But maybe it is a thing where, hey, we'll go to camp and see what happens.
Quick twist here. You know, as we talk about the future of the quarterback position, what
Team
if like
Faithful
what, no,
quarterback?
what if like Malik Henry is the future of the position, or one of
Well,
these
no,
other
but
guys that they
that's-
brought
I know,
in? Right?
and that's-
You never know.
that's
So we're
fair.
sitting there going,
Possibilities.
they got no future,
Right,
but
no.
the
But
future
going off
could
what
still
he's
be
seeing,
Trey
but
Ford,
that's
or
the
it could be
Canadian-
one of these other guys we don't know
And
about.
that's the Canadian Football League. No one knew Ricky Ray, who he was when he started.
None of these
right?
things.
It
They
was-
all come out of nowhere. That's-
But with Trey Ford, we've seen him now play a few games over 2 seasons. I go back to he's won 5 of the 8 games Chris Jones has won in the second tenure of the Edmonton Elks. He's been the quarterback that's gone out there and gotten those wins for them. There's an excitement there. I go back to there was a video once put side by side of Trey Ford running against the Calgary Stampeders in a run Kyler Murray did with the Cardinals this year, where Trey Ford's was more impressive.
Yeah.
It was wild.
He's
It's
insanely
very
impressive.
exciting.
Like,
It's very
there's
exciting,
there's an electricity to him.
Yep.
There is a potential of a quarterback there. And I do emphasize the potential of a star quarterback there. It is potential and is not realized. And I think Elks fans all sit there and go, we would rather see
the potential than
what is the potential while he's with the Elks as opposed to
the sure thing.
the sure thing and bringing in a McLeod Bethel Thompson who is more proven, without question, has led his team to the Grey Cup, but also isn't sexy while doing it and isn't exciting. And look, you shouldn't make decisions really based off of business, But this organization's at that point now where you need to excite your fan base too, and it goes beyond wins. It's not about winning one season that's going to bring your fans back. It's about winning for 3-4 straight seasons, getting those fans back.
Yeah.
So in that meantime, how do you get people here? You got to have exciting brand of football. What's more exciting? McLeod Bethel Thompson with his quick release, or Trey Ford with his athleticism?
Just win, baby.
Well, I was going to say how you get people back is what's better. Trey Ford being exhilarating but having 5 wins, or McLeod Bethel Thompson get rid of the ball quick and have a 9 or 10.
Because we went through this with
The answer's
Cornelius
got to be
already.
9 or 10.
And the potential,
Has
and the
to be.
potential.
They only
in
won
the game.
4 last year, for goodness sakes.
Yeah,
I think people love Trey Ford, but they're also tired of the potential talk. Maybe fair.
I don't think not with Trey Ford. I don't.
No,
think.
but not with
Well,
him personally. I'm
I
just
think
thinking
anyone else.
I think Cornelius all this
fans
potential.
sit there
then
right
we're-
now and go, the quarterback's there. This team has found their quarterback. Let's give him the shot.
MBT?
No,
No,
in Trey Ford.
Trey
In
Ford.
that,
But we don't know yet.
but I think fans sit there and go, he's going to be it.
We thought we had it.
He's going
Cornelius
to
too.
be
There's potential there. and
No, it wasn't
never-
like this. It wasn't like this.
He's Canadian.
And I honestly, I think
The different
I
style
was
of
thinking
play,
about it.
like,
Lucas
I just-
said, what would happen if he was American? I actually think the Chris
he-
Jones would be more likely to
He'd
keep
be
him.
starting game 1.
I think, Lucas would say we wouldn't be giving the attention to Trey Ford if he was American. It's the only reason we see his
no,
passport. I think it's
he's
flip
a thrilling
side.
player.
I think flip side, it's actually, if he was American, he'd have a better shot
Yes,
at being
no,
a starter
so- yeah.
because of his
Maybe,
athleticism.
I don't know.
Chris Jones always talks about athleticism. He wants his players' athleticism.
I guess-
How much more athletic can you be than Trey Ford?
My point was they were trying to sell on potential with Cornelius these years, and now to rerun that again with somebody else, albeit more exciting and
Yes.
more potential than Cornelius.
But the
is one of
difference
those.
is the fans didn't believe that. Whereas the fans
I
want
believe
this
it.
with
Well,
Trey
I think
Ford.
some people
don't.
believe it,
But
why
not,
wouldn't you? I think we all said he's got the tools, he's got the mechanic, could never really put it together,
Because-
which is unfortunate.
Mac-
But,
Okay,
well, but
here's the fan base didn't believe it in Taylor Cornelius because he was the guy that was here with Brock Sunderland and Jamie Elizondo, and they couldn't win football games.
yeah, but now
And then
you
the
breed a
start-
different coaching staff and everything.
and
give
how did that
weapons.
start with this coaching staff?
No, I know.
He was scratched in week 1 for Nick Arbuckle and
Fair
Trey
enough.
Ford.
Yeah, but then they
And-
gave him a lot of money.
And that's
'Cause
so
they
now
believed in
the
him.
fans at no point then from there could be convinced that this guy is the future of this team. Outside of very few people, I don't think that there was a portion of this Elks fan base that thought he was the future.
But my point is,
the
you
larger
spent all
portion,
that time selling on potential, where now you're going to do that again, albeit with a better guy who has more potential. I would agree,
but
to
somebody the
do that
fans
again,
are okay with.
I agree.
That's the difference. That's what my point is.
Some
like,
are and some aren't.
I would
So-
say that if we polled the majority of Elks or the Elks fans, the majority would say they would rather see whether Trey Ford could become a quarterback, seeing if he could realize his potential by
Sure.
playing him.
Some may think that, and some may
Then
not.
I know, but
Some
I'm saying
believe in
majority will
Cornelius,
be.
some didn't.
I'm just saying if it,
But the majority didn't believe in Taylor Cornelius.
I'm just thinking if you try to do that with Ford and it doesn't work, you might not have much left here.
That's and that's
Sure.
what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's why
This is
that's
last
why-
chance, and
A flip side, if it doesn't work with McLeod Bethel Thompson and
got-
Trey Ford walks,
Yeah.
it doesn't work here.
But
and
at
if
least
Trey Ford
you-
goes somewhere else,
I think you know more of what you're getting with MBT.
sure, okay, but I'll even go flip side where it's MBT goes 9-9 this year, like you were predicting.
Are they in the playoffs?
Maybe.
Let's say yes.
Maybe.
Let's
Okay, first
lean
round
towards
exit
yes.
off a crossover.
Okay.
Crossover lose.
I feel like they'd win the crossover.
I can't go there. I already gave you
They might-
playoffs.
they might not.
Trey Ford goes and wins 7 games. That would be better for this fan base because they see a quarterback that could be here
I might give
3-4
you
years
that.
from
I
now.
might give you that a
McLeod
little
Bethel
bit.
Thompson, again, how long do you get? If McLeod Bethel Thompson was 32, this is a different conversation. In July, he's 36.
Yeah.
That's the issue with the car. With
Which is
McLeod
why I
Bethel
think you
Thompson.
should still hold
And-
out hope that Ford can be the guy. Because what's MBT
sign
going
him
to
to
play
the
till he's 40?
extension.
Well,
Get the extension done,
Chris
and I will
Jones,
be good.
G-Roy, can you please get Trey Ford extensions? So
And
this
I will
guy
shut up. I will shut up.
My God.
I will be done. I will
have-
stop with this.
I got a meeting at 2:15.
Yeah, no, it's 2 o'clock. We said we'd do this for about an hour.
Yeah. Well, that's good then.
So
yeah.
what is this? It ended up only being CFL. Like,
they know it's free agency
Edmonton
day?
Elks
I know.
talk. Did we miss anything? Did we miss anything in free agency?
No, but I will say this.
let's double
to
check.
Hernan and Dahmer. If you guys announce something when we're done this, I'm going to be pissed. Like, if we wrap this up and they're like, Elks sign Oakman and Robertson, I'm going to come down to Commonwealth with this laptop and smash it over Hernan's head. So,
Jameer Thurman officially to the Riders.
Jordan Herdman Reed as well.
Riders again?
Looks like, yeah.
That's it. I'll also very disappointed the Elks didn't improve the offensive line in my mind. That's what I wanted this offseason as one of my 2 things. So
This is
Any
fun.
final thoughts on CFL Free Agency?
I
from
love
you
it.
two?
Let's do it again.
The very first message we had here in the Nasty Chat said, every day from 1 to 2 should be a CFL show. That'd be cool because sports stations on radio would not do that.
That could be a CFL season thing.
But we could
We can't do it 12 months of the year.
We can do
No, we
whatever
can't
we
do it
want.
12 months of the year.
We could try.
But I mean, who knows? Maybe
No.
we leave that little window in there for CFL season, the non-CFL season.
You could do it from week 1 through to Grey Cup, potentially. Even once a week.
At least
Maybe even
once a week.
we can
I
do
mean,
something like that. We'll
yeah.
look into that. We'll see.
All right, this was
Actually, that
fun.
would work with some things. He's Lieutenant Eric. He's Dustin Nielson. I'm Matt Iwanyk. Coming up next, it is Nielsen Show replay. It will be getting going. And then Oil Stream pregame show. Tom Gazzola getting you set for Oilers Red Wings. 5:30 right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. And then you boys are back. Well, we're all back tomorrow on
Mr.
the
Lean.
Nielsen
Mr.
Show.
Lean back in.
Mr. Lean.
And then I'm back on
Free
air
agency
fully with
machine.
the EST Hangout as Dean Millard and Will Fraser will be.
Oh
so that's,
my
That's
God.
tomorrow.
Oh my
the
God.
EST Hangout. Thanks for tuning into this special CFL Elks Free Agency coverage here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday and